Good morning, everybody. We have the awesome opportunity to have Curtis with us again. I know everybody's really excited about these trainings, and every week I look forward to Wednesday and all the new things that we're going to learn. Curtis actually just got back in from out of country, and so we have the great opportunity to be one of the first group of people that get to hear from him in the States. So I'll let you take it away, Curtis.
Awesome. Well, listen, first of all, Romy, it's great to see you again. How are you doing, girl? You had a good week?
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Yeah, as you'd mentioned, Lisa and I, we were at a kind of a mastermind coaching training kind of a thing in Antalya, Turkey, and it's a resort area on the coast of the Mediterranean. It's just absolutely stunningly gorgeous. So that was fun. We had a great group and a great team there that we were spending time with. It was just a really good week, and so it's great to be back. We came back in on Monday night. A couple of flight delays over a 28-hour returning period with a few connecting flights, and in Istanbul and then London Heathrow. And tomorrow morning at 6:30 we head towards the airport because we're headed to Hong Kong, and then the next 4 weeks we'll be in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Hong Kong, and bounce around Asia. So we'll be coming to you from various places around the globe over the next few weeks. And as a matter of fact, what we'll probably do, because that's going to create some really interesting opportunities of trying to be consistent with bandwidth and to make sure that we're able to catch up on these hangouts. What we may do is we may talk to you about converting to some calls where we may just look at periodically while we're traveling, maybe recording a training video that everybody can tap into, and then actually doing calls. There's a system that we have called Instant Teleseminar, and it allows us to do a call and record it so that you guys would still have access to it. It will record automatically, create a link, and then you can provide that link to your team so it can be part of the training library of information, again, that everybody can dig into so that they can get access to it if they can't be there live. So anyway, it's great to be here today. It's kind of unusual. People say, what's the best thing about coming home? And I say, we love being international. We love traveling and seeing it, but every once in a while it's fun to come back to some place where you can read all the signs. It's just a very simple barometer of happiness. Wow, I can read all the signs. So what we wanted to do today, and we'll kind of make it part of a couple of things that we'll discuss kind of in sequence today and then next week. And you and I had the chance to have a conversation. We've talked about a lot of the how-tos over the last few weeks, last month or so, a couple of months. Now I want to get into some of the, maybe not so much some of the why-tos, but Lisa often has said, and you'll probably hear her say it in future training, we say it all the time, most people are looking and they're thinking that I really want to understand the how-tos. And yet, how to anything is very easy to access. In today's world, with that magical thing called Google, what years ago used to be the library, the reality is you can get access to for free. If you just start typing with creativity, you can Google search, you can find how to anything about anything from the best minds on the planet who either live today or have ever lived about whatever that anything is. And so there are tremendous resources out there from some of the best recruiters in the world, how to invite, how to prospect, how to whatever. We try to teach things that are part of a sequence, meaning for a brand new person, the most important thing is to get them some confidence, get them into action. My mentor a long time ago said, Curtis, our relationship is like a jockey and a horse. You don't have to know where you're going, why you're going there, or how you're going there to get there. You just have to run. I can't run. You just have to run. I'll be the jockey. I've been there before. I know where we're going, why we're going, and how we're going to get there, and I'm just going to guide you. I'm going to keep you off the rail, and we'll just get there. Once I've gotten you there a few times, you get to be the jockey for your team horses. And so it's a very simple, repetitive, duplicable process. So everybody thinks they want to know the how-tos. The how-tos aren't real overwhelming. You can just go Google and figure out a million how-to ways. The most important thing is learning how to think like leadership. And one of the issues that will often come up, and particularly for those who are newer, is the issue of disappointment. Meaning, gee, I'm committed to this. I see it. I've got it. I'm excited about it. I'm ready to go flat out and make this amazingly successful. How do you handle the disappointment? And the question that comes up: how do you handle the disappointment when others say they're going to do something, they don't show up? When others, say they see what you see, but a month later it seems like they're nowhere to be found. When, I know that they could be amazing at this, but for whatever reason they've just quit or stopped. And so, how do you deal with that? Well, first of all, let's come back and say, oftentimes for every individual, it's about creating the appropriate expectation and then managing the expectation. And sometimes that comes from the initial conversation. For example, we've talked in the past about the 3 questions during prospecting. Are you happy? Do you have a plan? Would you like to see one? Those aren't really 3 questions you ask. Those are 3 thought ideas. They're 3 conceptual places you want to help people get in their mind as part of the process. And the reason we say that is because ultimately everybody in the world, no matter where they're from, has had the exact same thought go through their head just before they decided to enroll in network marketing for the very first time. And that thought is, regardless of ethnicity or nationality or anything, age, gender, is there's something in my life that I want that I don't have, and from what I've seen, I think if I do this with these folks, I could get it. Okay, I'm going to enroll. That's in essence it, yeah. And it could be as simple as there's something I don't have that I want, which is an extra $300 a month. It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. And I think from what I've seen, if I do this with these folks, I could get it. There's something I have that there's something I don't have that I want. I want to pay off my college loans, and I think if I do this with these folks, I could get it. I want to change careers, and I don't mind if I make the same $80,000 a year. I just like to be laughing and having fun doing it instead of crying and hating it. Gee, I think if I do this with these folks, I could possibly get that over time. So that's the thought process. So we talk about those themes of, are you happy? Do you have a plan? Because that's locking somebody. It's connecting someone with that. Gee, there's something I want that I don't have, and I don't have a clue how I'm going to get it. Great. Would you like to see one? Here you go. So if you step back a second, what we're doing is we're trying to create an environment that is naturally tapping into those things that we know have to naturally happen for human beings based on human behavior and desire to respond. Hot market, you're a close relationship. I'd like to ask you to participate in a project trial with me for the next 60 or 90 days. At the end of that time, if you love it, great. We've got long-term benefit. If not, it will just be a wonderful way to help me start being successful, and I'll never ask you to do it again. Can I count on you? That's not complicated. It's just a natural process. Now, however, let's talk about building a team, and let's talk about expectation. Part of the process is, first of all, your own mental expectation. I actually had this conversation with my mentor years ago, 23 years ago when I met him. It was probably a year later as we were doing something, and in a casual conversation, I just kind of tossed out something along those same lines. Daniel, how do you protect yourself? How do you adjust? What do you do? You seem to be so unaffected. It doesn't appear as if there is. Let me do something real quick. I just watching some of the Q&As because everybody's just kind of here, and it's great to have everybody. Let's see. And somebody asked, is anyone else hearing double voices? Sometimes that can happen. What you might need to do is drop out, come back. Well, no, it looks like that suddenly was resolved. Okay, if there's anybody else hearing double voices, let us know. And but it looks like Joanne, maybe you got that resolved. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a problem, but sometimes that does happen on your end. Okay, let me kick back in. I'm trying to watch this and make my point. I'm trying to pay attention to everybody over there. I had that conversation. How do you deal with that? And what was funny was his reaction. Now, he'd been mentoring me for about a year, and I guess he felt that he'd already toughened me up enough. it was something verbally close of being smacked in the head, 3 or 4 times, like, what are you talking about? And what he said was, he said, Curtis, I can't believe after a year you still not grasped what it is that we do. We're not in the business to get anybody. We're not in the business of getting, we're in the business of giving. We're not in the business to get anybody in our business, to get anybody to become a customer, to get a team member, to get somebody to do something. We are in the business of giving human beings a choice and then honoring and respecting their choice. Your job is to be aware of what they're choosing simply so you know where to focus your attention. And the reality is you need to understand only 3% are going to achieve at an elite level. And that has nothing to do with network marketing. That is life. Those are the percentages in anything. There's the elite 3%. There's the 97% who aren't operating at that elite level. They're just hanging out and doing the job, and doing the job well enough not to get fired, so that they got paid enough. They don't want to quit. We've all heard those kind of things. That is human nature. What we're in the business of, if you will, is creating an environment that allows those who have been a part of the 97 but truly have a burning desire and finally have reached a point where they're willing to act upon it to charge forward. We don't do it for them. We cannot. They must do it for themselves, but we can guide. We can only guide if we've got the right mindset. And that is, first and foremost, measure everything from your perspective. So, I'm really disappointed because I see in Romy great potential and she's just not fulfilling it. Gee, I'm so disappointed. Why? And that's what he basically hit me in the head with. Why? What the heck are you doing being disappointed? How dare you be so arrogant that you assume that you know what Romy knows is best for her? It's her life. She's an adult. She's a grown woman. She's a human being, and she has a right to choose. So she hasn't chosen to be as dedicated, committed, and focused as you are. What, does that make her less of a person? No. So get over it and stop being disappointed. You should be expecting that Romy will not fulfill her potential, or that Fred or Bill or Mary or Janet, because that's what most people don't do. Most people don't do that. Most people don't choose. Most people don't, if they choose temporarily, and then they go, oh my gosh, I actually have to put in effort? Holy cow, you mean I can't just take the doTERRA pill and suddenly be the elite grand super, Starfleet commander of the universe, top income earner? Oh my gosh, I have to sweat at it a little bit? Oh, well, I think I'll just keep going to my job and sit back here and relax. Here's the key. If only 3% achieve at an elite level and 97% don't, how do the 3% receive 3% income? Because 97% are still there. In other words, if you make it about making money, when most people don't, then most people feel they've failed and they quit. Well, that's kind of silly. When you should have known as elite leadership going in that most people aren't going to make money, not because they can't make money, because they choose not to do what those who make significant income choose to do. The people who don't make $300, it's simple, because they're not choosing to do the simple things that people who make $300 do, period. It's just not complicated. Here's the fact. The fact comes down to, what is your choice? Stop being disappointed in anybody else. Stop it. Quit. Stop doing that right now. Stop it. Step up and accept responsibility for the only person you're responsible for, yourself. And here's the simple question. Are you committed? Have you taken the position? In other words, finish this question. I will not quit until ... Now fill out your ... Post it everywhere and stick to it. I will not quit until the company makes a mistake. Well, listen, go do something else today, because the company's making their next mistake's coming this afternoon. If they make it through today, then it's happening tomorrow, because they're human beings. I will not quit until a friend doesn't show up at a meeting. Just pack it in, call it even. Go into customer mode. If you love the products, keep buying those for your own personal benefit and get out of the business, because that's their right as a human being. And just look at the numbers. We are not here to change human behavior. We are here to operate within the realm of human behavior. Why do we keep doing this if only 3% are going to achieve great elite result? Because I don't know who they are. And my job, having been blessed in my life when I was part of the 97% and getting ready to quit and leave, was finding someone who still stuck with me long enough, admittedly grabbing me by the throat, slapping me metaphorically in the face, kicking me squarely in the ass, and saying, "Are you going to get with this, or what are you doing? Stop screwing around. Go do something else or engage, but pick one." And it just caught me right at the right time. I stopped whining and complaining and being wimpy and mealy mouth, and I stepped up and said, "Okay, I'll shut up and listen. Tell me what to do. I don't care how hard it is. I'll bleed, sweat, go sleepless, do whatever it takes. I will do what it takes. I'm ready to finally, man up or woman up. I'm ready to go." And I did. But I never would have done that had there not been someone there willing to. Sorry, guys, I'm getting the. Let me see if I can find it. Good. I just wanted to cancel that so it didn't make noise while we're here on the call, or while we're here on the Hangout. I was finally willing to listen. And so what he did was he managed my expectation. He said, "Now, Curtis, let me be crystal clear. Now that you've chosen to do this, from this day forward, I'm never going to push you to do anything. I'm going to teach, coach, and guide. But here's where we need to start." And this is what I would recommend to all of you. We all say start with your why. Because he said, "Curtis, it begins with you. And you have to understand, if you are going to see, commitment is where it begins. I commit. I will not quit until ... And my commitment is I stick to that. I will not quit until every possible human being for the rest of my life that I could possibly reach out and touch and share these extraordinary products and this incredible opportunity, not caring what they choose, but knowing that my job was simply to give them the choice, sleeping well at night, knowing that I did that with truth, compassion, honesty, integrity, and focus and clarity. So if I go through 6 months where 487 people I've given a choice all choose no, I feel great about my result and what I've done, because look at how magnificent it was that I never quit and I gave 487 people a choice. Because the next 6 months, it's one of those things. It just happens all of a sudden. You get 50 in a row who all choose yes, and then 20 of them go to work and 5 of them crush it, and you have a great result. You just don't know. In other words, what is your commitment? That's I will not quit until ... But also your why. Here's the problem. Lisa does a training on this, and she does a far better job of me. She's extraordinarily at it. I'm just going to touch on it because she'll probably do it at some point in the future. But where people, they talk about these, what is your why? Well, I want this big house and this big car, and I want all these fancy things and all that great stuff. Hang on just a second, guys. I'm going to try and see if I can cancel out of somewhere. I've got a. I'm so connected on Google and all this stuff and Hangouts. Oh, well, somebody's calling through. We'll just let it keep, if you hear some things, I'm just ignoring my phone calls because you guys are more important. It's where, what he basically said to me is, "Curtis, what does their choice have to do with yours?" He said, "There's nothing anybody can say. There's nothing anybody can do. There's nothing the company, there's nothing. There is nothing that can happen on this planet Earth to cause you to change your commitment. You simply do one day. You just choose. Okay, I had 23 people on my team and they've all quit. So, what's that have to do with anything? They were the wrong 23 people. Next. What's your commitment? Are you sticking with it or not? But don't blame it on the 23 people who quit. Well, I had 4 good friends who said it was all a pyramid scam and that stuff never works and it's all, So, what's that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with your decision? Well, my child's just not learning how to walk fast enough, so I just turned him back in and gave up on it and said, I'm finished being a parent. Really? Seriously? Well, it's the same thing. So just understand, commitment is a decision you make, and be a grown man or a grown woman, and the day you decide something else, just don't blame it on anything else. Look in the mirror and say, I've chosen differently, accept the responsibility, and move on. And it's okay. If that's your choice, that's okay. But don't make wimpy choices. Be solid in your choice. I chose to do this. I chose to be committed. I'm choosing to no longer be committed. Great. Move on. If you then adopt that, then you have to say, my job is not to speak to the few, and when a few say yes, rest my entire future dreams of wealth and glory on the few, but to realize that the 97% odds are they're not going to continue beyond some point, or if they continue forever, if you make it about money when they aren't making it because they choose not to do what you know they're not going to choose to do. then you've made it no longer a place they feel comfortable, because it was all about making money. Now that it's about making money, when you know 97% won't, guess what? You'll never be a part of the 3%, because the 97% don't stick around as consumers. We get paid on volume. We don't get paid on numbers of people. We don't get paid on committed leadership. We get paid on volume. We get paid on human beings who love consuming the product. That's why we talk about a hot market. It's building a base of consumers and realizing that everybody can, most won't. That's okay. So let's do this. Let's start with your why. The problem with saying why is I want to live in the big house, or I want to drive the fancy car. Most people have never been in a big house. They've never been to the multimillionaire's mansion. So they're dreaming of something they can't grasp. There is no tangible reality to that vision. I want that Rolls Royce. Really? Have you ever driven in a Rolls Royce? Have you ever driven one? Have you ever ridden in one? Do you have any concept? And so what it is, they've got these whys that are intangible concepts. Here's a better thing. Here's what I'd like you guys all to do. I'd like you to write down a list of the top 3, top 5, top 2, top 10, top 8, whatever it is. If they keep popping in your head, write them down this evening, of the horrific fears that you face right now. What are the greatest fears that right now, my mother her health has failed, my father's having to take care of her, and at 68 he's still having to work because they can barely get by, and I was doing this because I don't want them to have to suffer through that anymore. It's not about the glory of the mansion. That keeps me awake at night. My children are 14 and 12, and I know college is coming, and I have no concept. They're wonderful kids. They're just not the elite, valedictorian, straight A, going to get a full ride scholarship. I know it's not going to happen, but I want them to have the opportunity, and they love school and education. They're just not the elite top 3%ers, but they're great people. They'll be great human beings. How am I going to pay for college? It keeps me awake at night. And how about if you write down the things I no longer want to tolerate? I no longer want to have to worry about how I'm going to make the car payment. Take your whys that were all these big, glorious vision things, set them aside for a minute, and write down the things that you have decided you will no longer, you despise, that you no longer want to allow in your life. Because I'll tell you what, if you have no concept, no real, true, visceral in your gut, no true taste, you can taste it, that acidic taste on the taste buds of your tongue. If you do not have an ability to truly understand what it's like to live in that glorious mansion on the hill in the mountains overlooking the whatever, or on the beach looking at the waves, when times get really tough, there's nothing to connect to. That's not a why. That's a cute fluffy thing. Once you're making $100,000 a year entirely from this business, then dream of being a millionaire result thing. When you're just getting started and you're struggling, how about if you write down the list of the things that keep you awake at night, and not in a fun way, and jot those down and say, I refuse to accept this any longer than is minimally necessary, because I am committed to changing my life. And when it gets tough and you're ready to quit, just take a look at those things and decide, okay, it's gotten rough here a little bit. Which one's more important to me? That it's okay that Dad is still having to struggle and work that hard while he's trying to take care of Mom? Or is it that I needed to get back in this fight? Because after all, the 3 people I'd sponsored, they all quit, and I just decided I'm going to give up and walk away. The reason it's important that you start there with yourself, because then you learn to coach your people to do the same. We need to get real in this profession, because it's a real profession. There are real skills that once learned can really allow you over time, once perfected and they become part of your nature and your instinct, you truly can control your destiny for the rest of your life. But it is a process. And so first of all, do that for yourself. Why? Now ask yourself, when you start a brand new team member, sit down with them. Now, by the way, I know this has been a very heavy, aggressive kind of conversation. Let me step back for a second. If you're going to do this business really properly, you need to have some fun. But don't ever confuse the fact that we can do it enjoyably, with a wonderful spirit, with the understanding that if we're going to have the potential to make this kind of dramatic impact in our life and helping others make this impact in their lives, this isn't a game. We're not playing here. This is the real thing. Because people are more driven by that pain sometimes than they are by some vague vision of wondrous glory that everybody talks about that they have no ability to relate to viscerally. down at their soul gut level. There's no way to relate to it. So until you can get away from the pain, then you can start envisioning the dream. Because why? I'm now making $3,000 a month. I get it. If I'm making $3,000 a month, I can figure out that it's really possible to make 5. And once I get to 5, I go, you know, I see this. I really know that I can get to 10 now. Maybe another 6, 8 months, 10 months, year and a half. I got that. Once you get to 10, wow, I see how you get to 50. You start teaching people how to do what I just did. But wow, this has been a tough 3-year road, but that's okay. 3 years, I've got a $10,000 a month residual income with these extraordinary products. Wow, I've gained this. Wow, this is amazing. So there's nothing wrong with having fun, but at the same point, underneath it all, you should understand this needs to be to some degree deadly serious. We're not kidding here. You get to where you're making $10,000 a month and you can get to $50,000 a month by teaching other people to do what you did. The hardest thing in the world is to get to that first $10,000 a month. Simplest thing is to get to 50. But that first 10 is tough. Why? Because that's where you're having to find those who find those who find those that are the 3%ers. You get enough of those, then one day that compounds. And so it comes to managing expectation. And part of it is, why are you disappointed in the reaction or the response or lack thereof of others? Step back. I will not quit until ... What are my painful whys? What are the things that keep me awake at night? What are the things that get into my soul? They get into my gut. They affect me so powerfully that then I've got this grounding. I've got this foundational strength. I faced the truth. I've said, here's the black and white of where I am. I'm not shading. I'm not, falsely creating this false image in my own head of here's where I am. Here's what I no longer wish to tolerate. Let me get out of this first, and then I'll work at the glory of how great I get the fluffy Beverly Hills side of the whole thing. But let's do this. Then let's know that if I will give, not get, I can have fun, but I'm having fun because now I have a complete, balanced, centered understanding of the mental side of where I am and where I'm going. And so now I can have great fun with people. Why? Because I want it to be fun, and I want it to be enjoyable, and I want it to be attracting. But when I attract them, I do take the time with a new person as part of their evaluation of the process. Are you happy? Are you satisfied and content? I am intentionally having a conversation that gets them in touch with their pain drivers. Do you have anything in life you want? What sucks most about your life right now? I'm trying to get them in touch with that. Why am I doing that? Because if they say yes, they want to get started, first thing I want to do is let's talk about your most important thing, your whys. And it's not this fluffy, cute little stuff. It's let's write them down. What are your biggest, most terrifying, keep you up late at night with the cold shakes, terror, fears, and dissatisfactions? Let's get those down, because together we're going to help you overcome those. So let's get it out there. I'm not going to take this whole happy, upbeat thing and make it miserable, but let's have a moment of honesty here real quick, because there are going to be days where it's deep and it's dark and it's cloudy and rainy and black and not fun. And I want to make sure that you have the thing that when you look at, you go, I'm quitting, this just isn't working. And then you take a look and say, hang on a minute. My children's future is more important than all this pain, all this disappointment, or all this stuff, all this garbage crap that I'm putting in my own head. Hang on a minute. Clear out the cobwebs. It's okay that they quit. It's okay they didn't show up at the meeting. It's okay they didn't say what they were going to do. That was their right. It was their right as human beings, but this is not what I'm going to talk. I will not quit. On second thought, something, my kid's future is more important than my pain at the moment. Step up. Let's get through it. I'm going to go prospect, talk to some new people with a smile on my face and open warmth and love and fun in my heart. I'm going to go out and do it again. So if you look at it in these perspectives, readjust your framing for a second. What's your pain list? Let's get that down. Those are your biggest whys. You can still keep the glory and the dream board out there. But before we get to the dreams, many of which we cannot even viscerally relate to because we've never been on that cruise. We've never been on that worldwide trip. We've never spent time hanging out for a few days in a mansion. We've never driven the Rolls Royce. Let me set that aside for just a second, and let's get down to the cold hard truth of the things that I will not tolerate. So when times get tough, I just say, which is more important to me? Quitting for to overcome my temporary, disappointment pain, or these things in my life that I once, at one time previously, said I will not allow these things to exist. If you do that, then let that list do its work. Stop, don't focus on it anymore. Let that list do it. And that list is there for when the times are difficult. So you can just make a choice, which is now more important. Am I going to change my mind or not? And if you say I'm never changing my mind, then great. Go out there with a whole different sense. work through your current team, and if none of them decide to turn around and change their mind, great. It's time to go out, and now you will be prospecting from a whole different perspective with fun, open, loving, giving, caring heart, because I want to have fun while I'm doing this. I'm going to attract people to it, and then when they get here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start them differently by creating a different perspective for them and saying, here's what it's about. Let's find your deepest, darkest fears. We're going to help you together overcome those. Then we will create dream boards of the great future long term, but let's get out of this position right now and let's find others like-minded like us. It is not about making money. It's about removing this pain, building a community, and creating a place that people love. Why? Because, again, I go through this difficult exercise for my own personal mental alignment and adjustment. Now, I'm no longer disappointed by the lack of choice or action on the part of others, because that's their right. I love them as human beings, and I respect and allow them to make those choices. I'm no longer disappointed. Now I'm going to focus on me. I'm the one I should be disappointed in. I'm the one whose actions or lack thereof or changing and shifting of things, that should disappoint me or not. Because as an adult, I can choose to change my mind. And now I have chosen to change my mind. I'm not disappointed in that. There you go. Once you've got that foundation mentally, it's a whole different, it's like lifting this huge weight off your shoulders and going, okay, I'm aligned, I'm good, let's go. Because I will not quit until ... And that will keep you in alignment. Now, just go out with love and present it. And now present it faster, wider, deeper, further, because you're just allowing more to make choices. And the last thing then is, then fill up the calendar. Fill up the calendar. Stop filling it with 2 or 3 people, putting all of your future hopes and dreams, investing it in their choices. Fill up your calendar as fast as you can with as many as you can touch, because it's easier to touch them. And they're more receptive to your touch because they can sense that you aren't desperate. People can smell desperation. When you suddenly realize, I don't care what any of you choose, I know that if I give massive numbers of people the choice, the numbers will take care of themselves. And it's me working through people to people. It's not just the people that I know. Now, if I just have 1 or 2 say yes, if we immediately create their list of the 200 or 300 names that anybody can write on a piece of paper, because these are people who would know them or recognize their name, knowing no one's ever going to, I've never gotten through a list of 300. I've made lists of 200 and 300. I've never gotten through it. I've never been able to get through it. I've never been able to get through and contact everybody on a list. Why don't I make a gigantic list? Because I'm never going to get through it. It takes the pressure off. I just start talking to people, not caring, knowing that the first 30 or 50, they're going to not be interested because I'm just terrible at talking about it. But after 50 times of attempting to talk to somebody, I'm getting really good at it. Now the next 50 really listen and say they start taking a look. And then the next 50, they really take a look and listen really intently. And all of a sudden, as soon as a few people start saying yes, I have them make out the list of 200 or 300 because we're going to take the pressure off because I'm going to create the right perspective. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have to call all these people. Well, of course not. We're never going to be able to get a hold of all of them. In other words, my list is now hundreds and hundreds because my list combined with your lists and your lists are massive. Because we've all got a perspective of, first, I will not quit until ... I will no longer tolerate these things and must overcome them as rapidly as possible, no matter what anyone else does. And here's the list of everybody I know that I get to give, not get from, but give to. And it's okay if I give to, let them choose whatever they choose. That's the mindset of leadership. The how-to is not important. The how-to comes with a little bit of comfort and expertise. We've shown you a million how-tos. We'll continue occasionally to show you along the way, but the reality is, when you understand the right whys, when you become the right leader, the how-tos happen automatically because it's just you having conversations from a giving position. It attracts people because they're attracted to those who are giving to them first, and the rest of it takes care of itself. So that's the exercise. Everybody start with maybe creating a different, unique set of whys. Keep the beautiful, wonderful, warm and fuzzy dream board and vision boards. Keep those. Why don't you create right now what's the real reality of where you are? What is the real pain that you wish to eliminate from your life as rapidly as possible? Whether that's 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, whatever it is, let's get on that road. do that mental shift, and then all of a sudden, all these other things. And so next week we'll talk about things like how to fill a calendar. How do you do that? What should the calendar look like? How do you identify a schedule of activity? Maybe over the next couple of weeks. How do you take this list with massive numbers of names on it? How do you rate that list so you know how to select who to initially communicate with? Because first, you select the first people because it's practice. And then practice gets you better, and then once you're better, that's the second group. So those will be over the next couple of weeks. Those will be some how-tos, but they'll be from a totally different mental perspective that I hope we've been able to share with you today. So anyway, Romy, there you go. I hope that kind of was a bit of a help, just kind of a mental readjustment and a little simple exercise, and it'll set up the next few weeks of calls and conversations as we continue.
Well, I think that was awesome. Like each week I listen to you, it's like, oh my gosh, that was the best one yet. This was the best one yet.
Okay, well, just understand right up front, next week is not going to be quite as good. I'm just trying to set myself up because no pressure, Curtis, just everyone gets better. Okay. I just want you to know next week will be very good, just not nearly quite this good, so we're just going to.
Yeah, no, it was really, really good. There was one part that you were talking about, the 3% and why do I keep going if only 3% are gonna come on board, and it was because I don't know who they are. And
well, it's not just that only 3% will come on board. Of those who come on board, you're always going to have the elite performers.
Right.
And the old 80-20 rule. And by the way, I talk about 3% at elite level. You're gonna have 15, 17%. It's what we call 17 out of 100 people who have said yes. You'll have 17 doing 90% of what's going on in your business. And of those 7, but you'll have 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 who are really, really cranking it out, and the rest who are just doing stuff, and the rest who are just hanging out as consumers, coming to the meetings, showing up in the webinars, coming to the events, and loving the community, and we love them. Because some of them might change their mind one day, and they might not, but that's okay.
Yeah, and that's how I believe. I believe everybody has the capability and the possibility to make their dreams come true and to make this work. And even if they don't do it right now, I just continue to believe that when the time is right, they'll find what's right for them. And so that was really good for me. But I love this, and I love the idea of looking at it really is going back to finding the solutions for them, and it's not the money, it is just life solutions. So
absolutely,
it was really good. And the fluffy dream board and all of that, I actually was having a conversation about like the money and the mind blocks and stuff like that. And so when I started, you hear, well, six-figure income. To me, that was completely, that was something that everybody talked about, but it was something that was totally out of my realm of belief. And even 5,000 was out of my realm of belief. I just knew I needed to make enough to be able to quit my job. And in retrospect, as I look back, I watched my process. So I hit that 3,000 mark, and then I hit that 5,000 mark, and then I moved past that 5,000 mark, and it started to help me to believe. I was like, oh my gosh, that six-figure income is doable for me. And when I hit the six-figure, I felt like I had arrived, and I probably wasn't going to go anywhere. And when I moved past that 10,000. Then it was like, oh my gosh, I did that. I can keep going. And so it really is that level of you hit the ceiling and you break through, and you hit the ceiling and you break through. And if we give them too big of dreams right off the bat, if somebody did that for me, I would have been like so overwhelmed. So that was perfect. I love the way that you put that all together.
Yeah, it's a sequential process. It's a process. It's not an event. And your story just said it. When I hit 3, I was like, really? Then I hit 5. Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody can. They just have to choose, and you did. Well, there you go. I hope that was a good day. And then what we'll do is I'll reach out to you in the next few days as we're traveling, and we'll arrange next week's call so you can post it in the group and let people know, and we'll get everybody dialed in. And and that way we can dial in internationally, and it'll be simple, and we'll just keep dovetailing and running with it.
Perfect. Thank
Okay?
you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I really appreciate you showing up.
Absolutely. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.